Hello and welcome back. I'm Marina Kim with the latest news from Kazakhstan. These are the headlines. The Interior Ministry is investigating the causes of a mass brawl at the Severnaya Truba minefield. Southern Kazakhstan is facing grain deficit. Agriculture Ministry urged the population not to panic. We have information about an emergency at the oil field Severnaya Truba in the Aktabe region, where a fight broke out between foreign and local employees of the Kazakh-Chinese enterprise CNPC Aktabe Munaygas. As a result, one Chinese citizen died and other 6 were hospitalized, including 2 with shot wounds. 3 Kazakh workers were injured as well. The investigation of the incident is currently underway, with local residents reporting dozens of people involved in the mass brawl.
Workers at the Zhanozhol deposit prefer not to discuss the incident between Kazakh and Chinese employees of the Severnaya Truba oil field. This is perhaps due to the people being afraid of their leadership and possible dismissals. It seems that there is no clear understanding of what had happened in the Zhanozhol, even among locals. Some claim that up to 40 Chinese employees participated in the beating, while others talk about 8 participants of the fight in total, 4 from each side. According to yet another information, 2 Kazakh workers were shot. The situation is further complicated by the lack of communication with Severnaya Truba oil field, located 90 to 160 kilometers away from Zhanozhol, depending on the drill station where the accident took place.
Kazakh Interior Vice Minister representing the entire department claims the fight between Aktabe Munaygas employees is a case of banal hooliganism. At the same time, the investigation group has yet to reach the site, although it already has at least one possible explanation for the incident, as evidenced by a criminal case investigated over the instance of hooliganism. Meanwhile, employees of the company say the reasons of the conflict are buried much deeper, namely in the existing labor discrimination. Evidently, however, these opinions are not taken seriously. More details come in next report.
The conflict between the employees of the CNPC Aktabe Munaygas was not based on interethnic hatred but banal hooliganism, said today the Vice Minister of Internal Affairs Alexander Kulinich. Security officials have launched an investigation of the causes for the armed confrontation and deployed an operative group to the site of the conflict.
Привлекается практически около 20 человек.
About 20 people are currently under the investigation in relation with the crime. We will have more information on the issue later on. 5 workers received injuries, including a gunshot wound. Alexander Kulinich also said that no one was killed in the incident, refuting the previously reported information. In their turn, Aktabe workers talk about labor discrimination. Supposedly, investors created unfair conditions for Kazakh and foreign employees. Chinese workers, for instance, have better salaries and living conditions. I heard a rumor that 30 or 40 people entered the mine and beat up 40 workers who were on the lunch break there. Good thing we have no Chinese here. We, the local population, ethnic Kazakhs and Russians, work as one family. Sometimes quarrels happen in the kitchenettes, but we try to avoid them, as Chinese, being smart, always keep together in groups. Last summer, Kazakh employees of the CNPC already held a strike in the Zhanozhol village camp, demanding better wage and the dismissal of several top managers of the company. These demands were never fulfilled, and the court later recognized the strike as illegal. This resulted in the firing of 3 employees who were ordered to compensate the enterprise $20,000 for a day-long standstill. Meanwhile, the Labor and Social Protection Minister claims she is familiar with the working conditions at the deposit in question and even visited it after the conflict. I visited the Aktabe region and discussed some issues with several workers. Everything was settled, and in general the situation is stable. A similar incident already happened in Kazakhstan in 2006, when a mass fight broke out in the Tengiz deposit in the Atyrau region between Turkish and Kazakh employees. This case was reviewed by the National Security Committee and the prosecutor's office. Notably, this is not the first mass conflict between Kazakhs and Chinese citizens, although no gunfire was even reported before. Despite the official case cited as a banal brawl, human rights activists and independent labor unions look for the other reasons, primarily social and public clashes, that are becoming more frequent.
The situation in the Dalinka prison in the Karaganda region remains tense. The families of inmates spent the entire Tuesday near the gates of the facility. It was them who alerted the media of the new protest action inside. Supposedly around 20 people announced a hunger strike in support of 8 inmates who previously cut their stomachs open, demanding better detention conditions. However, the leadership of the Penitentiary System Committee of the Karaganda region refutes this information and explains that more than 50 inmates simply refused to accept food due to religious beliefs. The next report has more.
The new protest action is reported in the Dalinka prison in the Karaganda region. This time 50 Muslim inmates announced a hunger strike as they refused to eat meals made of pork. The special prosecutors and leadership of the Regional Penitentiary Systems Committee urgently arrived to the prison to deal with the situation. While the authorities were negotiating with inmates, their family members gathered in front of the facility's gates. An ambulance was also reported at the scene. The concern is caused by the events on Monday when 8 inmates conducted an act of self-mutilation while demanding better detention conditions. Sani Luchkina received an anonymous message that her imprisoned son was amongst the victims. I don't know why it happened. I don't believe that he could do this to himself. What did they do to force him to do this? It seems that this is worse than hell. Several hours later, the deputy head of the Penitentiary System Committee of the Karaganda region issued a comment on the situation, saying that there are no victims and no hunger strike, although inmates indeed refused to accept food. In the course of long talks, the leadership of the prison decided to introduce additional separate meals that do not contain any pork. There were certain demands from the convicts who are Muslim believers to exclude the pork from the meals. Nevertheless, the leadership of the Regional Penitentiary System Committee believes that there is possibly a link between self-mutilation attempts and the hunger strike, and the recent events are aimed to destabilize the situation in the prison. 4 convicts have undergone surgery. Their injuries are of varying degree of severity. At the moment, their condition is stable. The leadership of the colony noted that all 8 inmates who cut their stomachs open had no prior record of bad conduct. The prison representatives say it is possible that inmates were forced to injure themselves by the true organizers of the action.
According to the information from various regions of the country, the prices for staple goods are still growing. For instance, flour prices have skyrocketed in eastern Kazakhstan. At the same time, representatives of the Agriculture Ministry are trying to calm down the population, saying that the current situation with grain and flour prices is temporary.
We believe that there are currently no grounds for the raise of bread and flour prices, while all responsible bodies are working to avoid the unfair use of the situation to make the unreasonable profits. At the same time, the facts are hard to avoid as bread prices have increased in several regions of the country. The prices for bread and flour were the main topic of the online conference with the representative of the Agriculture Ministry as well. Evgeny Aman ensured that Kazakhstan has enough grain to avoid deficit. According to the data of the Agriculture Ministry, 95% from the total grain harvest has been collected, which amounts to almost 12.5 million tons out of the planned 14 million.
Despite of the assurance of Astana officials, the bread issue is continuing to be a hot topic in the country. Southern Kazakhstan could face the shortage of grain with fixed prices. In early September, the Grain and Bakers Unions, Food Contract Corporation, as well as area administrators signed a memorandum to maintain the grain prices fixed. Unfortunately, this backfired and led to the deficit of the product.
Southern Kazakhstan is facing the grain deficit while region's flour mills are processing the remains of the grain reserves. The supply of new grain to the region is delayed. Even the memorandum signed on the government level is not helping in the resolution of the situation. The millers and bakers are not panicking yet as they are waiting for the enforcement of the document. The government expected that the farmers will sell the grain on the set price of $190, but this is not happening yet. I hope that it will. According to the data, only 41,000 tons out of 2 million was submitted by September 17 from the entire Kazakhstan. Southern Kazakhstan annually purchases grain from the northern regions of the country. The region has to receive 33,000 tons of grain on the monthly basis. At the moment, however, even the first shipment of 5,000 tons is yet to arrive. There's no threat of a deficit because today the flour milling enterprises have grain and flour in the amount of 30,000 tons, as well as 6 tons of already processed flour. There's also 600 tons of flour from the north at the wholesale depots. The authorities, however, are concerned about the price paid for the flour issue. According to the government memorandum, millers have to purchase grain at the price of 27 cents per kilo. Unfortunately, there's no grain at that price in the region. Currently, we sell grain at the price of 20 cents per kilo. At the moment, farmers are waiting for the increase of prices. Only 2 people have submitted this year's harvest. If the expected 5 tons of northern grain will not be delivered to the region on time, Shymkent will remain without bread and flour. The region has to receive 42 tons of grain daily.
The authorities of eastern Kazakhstan are struggling with malicious defaulters holding outstanding heating debts. The issue of the upcoming heating season was even raised during the recent cabinet meeting. The Prime Minister warned officials that winter is approaching and those who fail to prepare properly for the upcoming colds will be reprimanded.
The upcoming winter's heating season will show the true face of Kazakh officials. The country's Prime Minister Karim Masimov officially reminded his subordinates of the upcoming colds. You can consider the winter as already here because the snow could start falling any day. So beware and don't be surprised of the consequences of your failures. Our commission has already visited schools and we are ready to make some assessment. Officials from northeast of the country claim that everything is under control and the replacement of the piping as well as the winter preparations are going according to the plan. All planned works for the maintenance of the heating infrastructure are done by 98%, thus we expect to finish everything by the end of the month, and we will be fully ready for the beginning of the heating season. Unfortunately, I cannot let you inside right now. I have already gone through 2 inspections recently. Heating workers, bailiffs and officials in eastern regions of the country are trying to reach through to the debtors. The winter is almost here, while the preparation for the coming heating season is lagging behind due to abbreviated finances. Ust-Kamenogorsk hold a debt of more than $2 billion to the monopolist. At the same time, the majority of the non-payers are actually the city's wealthy citizens. The owner of the place was declared wanted. The property will be arrested and sold in an auction. The heating season will start on October 1st, thus the region will have to hurry up. This forces Ust-Kamenogorsk authorities to take the last resort measures, like placing pictures of the debtors on the city's mega boards.